Hi, welcome to the channel. I'm Nathan Schmidt, and today I'm going to be doing a side-by-side comparison of the Nikon FM and the Nikon FM2. The Nikon FM series are sort of a notorious and heralded set of cameras. These cameras are tanks. They're all metal, and when you have them in your hand, they're heavy. That sort of leads to this feeling of indestructibility. Given how widely these cameras are still available, it's sort of hard to deny that. These cameras are simple, but the simplicity is really what is so great about them, what's so sort of elegant about the design. Starting with the FM, I could be wrong, but I think the FM stands for fully manual, or if it doesn't, it probably should, because these cameras are fully manual cameras. There are no automatic settings on here. So just to give a quick overview, you have your shutter advance, or film advance rather, which actually has a locking mechanism to it, which is one of my favorite parts of this camera. You know, carrying a camera around in a bag, my previous workaround for that would be to shoot and then not advance the film until I took it back out again. And I've missed a couple of impromptu shots that way, not having it completely ready to go. So the ability to cock the shutter and then to push this back forward so that the shutter won't actually release is one of my favorite features of the camera. Likewise, pulling this film advance lever out also starts on the FM, the light meter in the camera. Moving on to the FM2. What surprised me about the FM2 when I got it, because I had been sort of lusting after it for a while, you know. I had the FM, I really loved it, just thought, you know, I would move up to a more expensive, widely loved, widely talked about camera. But when I ended up getting it, the amount that was different on the camera actually really shocked me. One of the biggest differences between the FM2 and the FM are actually fairly minor. One thing is the film advance lever still has this locking position, and when you pull it out, it's actually doesn't start up the light meter right away. It does make it so that your battery on the light meter will last a bit longer, but the way that you start the light meter is you do a half press on the shutter, and I'm not personally a huge fan of that. I don't really like the feeling of pressing half down on a shutter. I always get a little worried that I'm gonna press the shutter all the way down and waste that frame. So I'm not a huge fan of that. And I'm also, I kind of like how the light meter in the FM operates a little bit better than the FM2. In the FM and the FM2, you have on the side of the viewfinder, you have a plus, a circle, and a negative. And so the circle is when the meter is telling you that that's a proper exposure. On the FM, there seemed to be sort of a gradual transition in between them. So you could have a negative, or you could have a negative 0, you could have a 0, you could have a 0 plus. And especially because the way I shoot, I like to overexpose my color negative film a bit. Being able to see when it was properly exposed but slightly overexposed, that was really beneficial for me while shooting. Whereas on the FM2, at least how it seems to me, there really isn't any of those in between options. You just get the negative, you get the 0, or you get the plus. And you know, it's nothing that I can't work past. I just appreciated the ability to sort of fine-tune the exposure in the FM's light meter readout. Then the other, I would say probably biggest difference between the two is they upgraded the shutter in the FM2, so it is able to move a lot faster. As far as I know, that makes the FM2 have one of the fastest shutter speeds that is available on a 35mm SLR, and the highest speed on here is 1/4000th of a second, which makes this camera really beneficial to anybody who is shooting portraits, because that allows you to keep the aperture fast really blur out that background without having to worry about overexposing the film. And it just gives you quite a significant amount of latitude with that, whereas the FM's highest shutter speed is 1/1000th of a second. So getting those two additional much faster shutter speeds is really beneficial in shooting portraits or anything like that. That shutter also allows the flash sync to be a bit quicker as well. So the flash sync on here is 1/250th of a second, whereas on the FM it's 1/125th of a second. I believe the last difference between the two cameras is this tab here, which is actually a tab for multiple exposures. It essentially negates the film advance. So when you move the lever forward, all you're doing is cocking the shutter. So really where this camera makes its distinctions as opposed to the FM is if you are shooting portraits outdoors or you're shooting a lot of flash photography, or you shoot a lot of multiple exposures. When I got the FM, I was trying to find a camera that was a little bit more high quality, but the FM2s at the time and still to this day oftentimes can be found on eBay in the ballpark of $250, and I've seen some that are in really good condition all the way up to $500-600. Whereas the FM, when I purchased this, I was really able to get this whole setup for somewhere around $130, which in a lot of cases is half, if not more than half, of the cost of getting into the FM2. The Nikon FM is probably my most recommended beginner camera because you can get it for very inexpensive and you have access to all of the Nikon lenses from there. It's just a great intro into the Nikon game, as well as just a really good all-around camera. And to this day, I would still stand by this camera as one of the better film cameras that you can get, period. That being said, both of the cameras are fantastic. I love how simple they are, how rugged they are. You can really beat them up. It seems like they are really cameras that can stand the test of time. People are still shooting with them on a regular basis, so I would imagine that that'll probably continue on to the future. And that's my overview of the Nikon FM and the Nikon FM2. Hope you all enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments if you have any suggestions on videos in the future or any ways to improve. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you in the future.